Kyle Shanahan spoke on Tuesday. Case scenario for San Francisco is to have Brock Purdy be the guy.
Guys who are talented enough to be taken in the top 5 of the draft, and we have another guy who played like it last year. So
I am so excited to bring you guys this update because previously I brought you a video about what we were hearing behind the scenes. We didn't really have any visual aid to back this up, and today we do have that visual aid, and I'm going to show you everything we've seen from Trey Lance and OTA. So before we get to the content, we're going to continue the $1,000 giveaways, man. All you have to do is subscribe and turn on my notifications to enter for a chance to win $1,000. Now that we get all that out of the way, the last pick I gave you guys on my Instagram story hit, and now we have a free square for game 1 of the NBA Finals. Jokic just needs a point. He's gonna get a point. At the time I'm recording this, it's way too early for me to give you your picks, so I'm gonna post my picks onto my story. And if you aren't playing Prize Picks, use my promo code Mikerophone and they'll give you up to $100 free when you deposit $100. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The San Francisco 49ers have so much invested in Trey Lance, and I think we could all agree, whenever you give up 2 first-round picks just for the opportunity to swap first-round picks in the 2021 NFL Draft, you're not going to be so quick to give up on your investment, unless if maybe you're the New York Jets. Jokes aside, even in the case of the New York Jets, I don't believe they're giving up on Zach Wilson. I feel like a huge reason why they brought in Aaron Rodgers to begin with was because Aaron Rodgers was Zach Wilson's mentor even before he came to the New York Jets. But in the San Francisco 49ers case, they kind of knew what they were getting themselves into. The New York Jets believed that Zach Wilson was NFL ready the moment they drafted him. But in the case of the San Francisco 49ers, they knew that Trey Lance was going to take some time and some work to make him into the player that they want him to be. This is something I already assumed. I drew parallels between Patrick Mahomes having Alex Smith as his mentor and sitting down and learning Andy Reid's offense, and comparing that to Trey Lance having Jimmy Garoppolo as a mentor and sitting back and learning Kyle Shanahan's offense. At the end of the day, I believe Trey Lance is destined for success. He has great players around him in the form of Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. He has a solid offensive line, and his head coach is an offensive genius. And you don't necessarily need to be some sort of football guru to tell that the 49ers were trying to replicate the same magic that the Chiefs had with Patrick Mahomes, only with Trey Lance. Now, what made this even more interesting is the fact that Patrick Mahomes and Trey Lance actually started training together in the offseason. Now, this is very significant because Trey Lance is going into a very pivotal season for himself. It's not very often that you see this type of scenario. Gone is Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy's future is up in the air considering the fact that he just got Tommy John surgery. He may be able to throw soon, but he's still not ready to throw. And Trey Lance, the man that was supposed to get the keys to the franchise, is currently fighting for the opportunity to win the starting job of the San Francisco 49ers. To be honest, I think this is really good for him. And even furthermore, I feel like the 49ers don't really have a choice here. At the end of the day, Brock Purdy, even when he does come back, is going to have to play nearly perfectly in order to be the San Francisco 49ers starter moving forward, because the San Francisco 49ers took a flyer on Brock Purdy with the final pick in the NFL Draft. They gave up 2 first-round picks just to swap first-round picks in the 2021 NFL Draft for Trey Lance. Trey Lance's ceiling is without a doubt way higher than Brock Purdy's, and we still haven't gotten a good sample size of Trey Lance if you think about it. Of course, there was the 2 games that he played in last year, the first one being against the lowly Chicago Bears, which they lost to the Chicago Bears, literally gifting the Chicago Bears 50% of their victories in the very first week of the NFL season in a rainy slop fest. And then by the time week 2 came around, well, Trey Lance suffered a season-ending injury. At the time, there was a lot of concern about how this is going to affect his development, because when you suffer a season-ending injury, especially to your leg, well, you're not going to necessarily have the opportunity to work on your game. This does give Trey Lance an opportunity to look at some film, but how much film is there on him at this point? The stage is set for Trey Lance because, one, his career is without a doubt in jeopardy already. It's crazy to think about, because Sam Darnold, who finally has a competent NFL coach coaching him, and is still relatively young by the way, is competing with Trey Lance for the opportunity to open up the season as QB1. You could best believe that he's not going to back down. So, to respond to this, Trey Lance started working with Patrick Mahomes in the offseason, primarily in regards to his mechanics. Now, this is very significant because Trey Lance's accuracy issues was a huge red flag for him coming out of North Dakota State University. It was one of those things that needed to be fixed without a doubt. And even based upon the small sample size we've seen, it seems like he still needs to work on that. There's a reason why Kyle Shanahan designed so many running plays for Trey Lance, which some 49ers fans think that's the reason why Trey Lance got injured. So this is a very big deal. And Trey Lance said himself, I learned a ton from Patrick Mahomes. I was able to focus on the right things, just having a better idea, even better this year coming into year 3 of what is expected of me, how to run the offense, being able to watch Jimmy and Brock play at such a high level this year, being able to be around Patrick was awesome. Just pick his brain, learning about just the type of guy he is, how he spends his free time off season, and then more about his in-season schedule as well. What's also pretty good is the fact that Patrick Mahomes thinks the world of Trey Lance, reportedly, and he even said, as Jeff Christensen, who orchestrated the practice between Trey Lance and Patrick Mahomes, told Trey Lance to straight up watch Patrick Mahomes in order to improve. The result is Trey Lance's arm no longer feels sore whenever he throws the football. Now, this is where it gets really fun because we heard this report going into OTAs, and man, when you look at Trey Lance sling the rock, man, this looks like a significantly better throwing form. I mean, the release is at the very minimum significantly quicker, which is a very big deal because again, this was a huge flaw in Trey Lance's game. And although I don't think this is 100% fixed, I think this is a huge step in the right direction. I also think this is a beautiful combination of generating enough pressure on Trey Lance to light a fire under his so he could compete. Because last offseason, he pulled up to training camp saying,
yeah, I'm the starter now. There's no threat to me being the starter of the San Francisco 49ers. Whatever goes, goes.
But now there's a huge question. There's a legitimate question about who is going to be the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers this season. And it's not like a sad quarterback competition, kind of like what we were saying the Seattle Seahawks QB competition was last offseason, which I don't care what you say. We were all making fun of the Seahawks QB competition between Geno Smith and Drew Lock last year. This is before Geno Smith had his incredible season. It's not that level of QB competition. I feel like all of these quarterbacks could potentially take the 49ers to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, depending on who plays the best. And it seems like Trey Lance is very, very focused on trying to win the starting job. You see, Kyle Shanahan even admits it.
We got 2 guys who are talented enough to be taken in the top 5 of the draft, and we have another guy who played like it last year. So
Brock Purdy, of course, is the last QB Shanahan mentioned, the most proven of the 3. He's the team's stated favorite to be the main man under center in 2023. Lance and Sam Darnold, the number 3 pick of the 2018 draft, are the 2 other contenders. A key part of Shanahan's message in that concise description of his quarterback room might have been a challenge of sorts. Lance and Darnold have talent. The time is now to turn that talent into production. You can see all 3 of them here, man. I mean, I think the way the 49ers are handling their quarterback situation is fantastic. I mean, you could see all of these QBs have a legitimate shot at being QB1 for the 49ers. I think Kyle Shanahan is a good enough coach to make it work with any of them. This is what Shanahan had to say about Trey Lance's new mechanics so far. When you're a quarterback, your feet aren't together. When you turn into a runner, your feet are together and you look to run. But then it takes you a second and a half to throw and defenders can tee off. It's about always having to be in a certain position to throw in. So when the O-line is bad, you're not one of those guys who's just going to get sacked every time the O-line is bad. You know how to get rid of the ball, or you know how to turn into a runner and go. And that has to do with how you balance your feet out, keep them apart, and how you can progress in a pocket. It seems like Trey Lance and Shanahan are on the same page here because he said it's being able to tie my feet to my arm and tie my feet to my brain and how we see concepts and everything like that. Offense is very specific as far as just tying your feet to your progressions. I don't think any offense in the country in college is like that, so it's definitely been a learning curve for me. At this point, what Trey Lance is saying to a football fan that might not understand what goes into being a quarterback may be a little confusing. I know at face value it was confusing for me. So what is he talking about whenever he's saying he needs to tie his mind to his arm, to his legs? What is Kyle Shanahan talking about in regards to keeping your feet together and your feet far apart, and that being the differentiating factor between a quarterback that's about to scramble and a quarterback that wants to make an accurate throw, which has been Trey Lance's flaw throughout his career. Take a look at some of the footage we have from Trey Lance's final game last year. Yes, we're going full Brett Coleman on you guys this episode. Take a look at how close Trey Lance's feet are to each other. This has been a consistent theme throughout his career, and it has been a huge reason why he struggled with accuracy throughout his career. Now, when you compare this footage to Trey Lance in OTAs, there's significantly more improvements here. For one, his hips are significantly lower, which balances his base and obviously results in his feet being significantly wider. And as a result of having better balance, at the very minimum, his throws will be more consistent. As a result of this, we could potentially see a Josh Allen-like leap from Trey Lance this season. No, I'm not saying he's necessarily going to win MVP. It could happen, but I think that's kind of a messed up expectation to have on anyone. But at the very minimum, you should see significant strides from him as a passer. But that's not all this article had to say. Wrist, hand, arm, shoulder, it all connects. The fracture bugged a lot of other things, and it was hard to find a way to throw finishing off of my middle finger and changing my grip and things like that. Lance said that all these complications are behind him now, and that's enabled him to develop that calm appreciation of the present, which he's using to navigate the unique challenges of this wild 2023 offseason in the 49ers QB room. I've been able to focus more on the right things that are going to help me versus trying to focus on getting back healthy last offseason. This is very exciting. At the end of the day, if I'm going to have to make a prediction here, I think week 1, you're going to see Sam Darnold opening up the season. I think if he makes even the slightest mistake, you're going to see Brock Purdy thrown in there. And I think at week 8 or week 9, you may see Trey Lance take the field. But these are predictions, and I could be wrong about this. It really could go in any direction. And if you're a 49ers fan, I'm sure you're feeling very optimistic at that point. Let me know, who do you want to start at the QB position if you're a 49ers fan? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.